and welcome to the best of British motorsport as we take a closer look at two of Britain's most exciting series, the Dunlop Rover GTi Championship and the Dunlop Metro GTi Challenge. One make racing means that all the cars are basically identical and the organisers only approve certain restricted modifications from standard. That means the championships are a true test of their drivers and that the racing is often very close indeed. Rover have been involved with one make racing for many years, first with Minis, then with the ever-successful Metros. So when Rover launched their new performance hatchback at the start of 1991, what better way to show off its performance than on the racetrack? The cars used are all identical Rover 216 GTIs, the 1600cc twin-cam model in the GTI range. They run on unleaded fuel, and the engines and gearboxes are completely standard and sealed before delivery by scrutineers to prevent modification. A very potent road-going combination, transformed for the racetrack, both in appearance by spectacular paint schemes and by the addition of safety equipment, stout rollover cages making the car more rigid, safety seats made out of Kevlar, multi-point harnesses, all strengthen the Rover for the action of the track. But the final modification is the suspension and brakes, developed as a package by Tony Pond Racing using Delco products and Dunlop Racing tyres to withstand the tortures of the racetrack. 4 months of development time spent by top Rover driver Tony Pond ensures all the cars are both equal and well capable of spectacular performance when they take to the track for the first time at Silverstone. One feature of the Dunlop Rover GTi Championship is the #1 Phillips Celebrity car, which is driven by a different star driver at each meeting. It can't gain any championship points, but any prize money earned will go to the charity of the driver's choice. And it was the Celebrity car which was in the thick of the action at the first race, with truck racing champion Slim Borgard at the wheel as the cars took to the Silverstone National Circuit. The 45-year-old Swede's no stranger to Silverstone. As a Formula 1 driver, he scored the only World Championship points for the ATS Grand Prix team here in 1981, and now he needs all his experience to find his way past the yellow Rover of Worcestershire driver Dave Loudon. Down through the new Brooklands and Luffield corners on the reprofiled Silverstone circuit, and as the pack piles through, Slim Borgard takes the lead, Dave Loudon ahead of the Cambridgeshire driver Peter Baldwin. And at the completion of the first lap, it's the Celebrity car first across the line. Borgard heading the field, but there's action all the way through the pack as we ride with Nigel Edwards battling for 7th place. Along the main start-finish straight at well over 100 miles an hour, then it's hard on the brakes for Copse Corner, squealing tyres and tyre smoke, and it's 3 abreast as they exit Copse Corner and head over the rise to Beckett's hairpin. Edwards is on the far right of the track. He's got Owen Hall on his left and Mark Hazel's alongside him. And Owen Hall dives through under braking for Beckett's, forcing his way through on the far side, though beating both of them is Mark Hazel. Rover Racing is proving close and spectacular right from the word go. It's now down the club straight, and it's a test of nerves at the other end of the straight as number 33 Martin Short and Peter Baldwin in the red car battle side by side into the braking area. Short gains the vital inside line through Brooklands corner to move ahead. Multiple mini racing champion Baldwin was eventually to finish 6th, while Short went on to finish 3rd behind Dave Loudon, who claimed the maximum championship points as Borgard took victory in the Phillips Celebrity car. Rover GTi Championship to Swede Slim Borgard, as we now turn our attention to round 2 of the series, which saw the Rovers tackle the high-speed sweeps of Thruxton in Hampshire, and the Celebrity car was again in the thick of the action. This time it was TV presenter Tiff Liddell at the wheel as he battled door handle to door handle with Nick Carr at the head of the field. But behind them, as the cars went into the complex for the first time, behind them there was chaos. Famous Campbell, Cobb and Seagrave corners saw Rovers spinning in all directions. But despite the melee, only one car was unable to complete the first lap. That was car number 4, Richard Hand. So a full field still out on the track, and Nick Carr, Tiffany Dell continued their battle, trying desperately to outbrake one another for the famous Thruxton chicane. And it's Tiffany Dell still leading from Nick Carr. Watch out for the silver car. That's Thruxton race instructor Ian Taylor, and he's closing fast on that yellow rear bumper. 21 years of racing experience, the chief racing instructor of the Thruxton circuit, very much on home ground, and Ian Taylor is doing everything he possibly can to find a way through. Nick Carr demoted to third, but Tiffany Dell is still out in front, while Dave Loudon throws his car all over the curbs in his pursuit. Out onto that long, fast rear section of the Thruxton circuit, up into fifth gear, the speedometer nudging 130 miles an hour through Church Corner and back up to the chicane. Ian Taylor is closing all the time on Tiffany Dell, and Nick Carr is determined not to let either of them get away. In car with Ian Taylor, you can see the Philips Celebrity car in front, and Taylor is closing. Inches apart at well over 120 miles an hour, approaching the chicane. The brake lights are flicking. Tiffany Dell's locking a wheel up. He's trying to close the door. Ian Taylor's trying everything to find his way around. And an absolutely super race with these two at the head of the field. And crossing the finish line, the checkered flag is waved. Ian Taylor's hand signal says it all. But behind them, the action continues. Mark Hazel and the sliding Martin Short prove that 2 into 1 won't go. But brilliant car control by the Huntingdon driver in car number 33 sees him rejoin the battle, now with Richard Austin and Owen Hall. Meanwhile, back in the paddock, Tiffany Dell was delighted with his first experience at the Dunlop Rover GTi Championship.
Yes, I mean, it's a very taut little saloon car. I mean, it's a nice racing saloon that you can sort of use racing lines with. It's not sort of sloppy or anything. So that's what's nice about it. It's very taut, and it responds to, you know, driver direction rather than having a mind of its own.
Round 4 on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, and just look at this slipstreaming battle as Ian Taylor heads Chris Clark, Nick Carr, Martin Short, Nigel Petch and Nigel Edwards. A 6-car train just inches apart at almost 130 miles an hour down Hanger Straight. Into Stowe Corner, and Chris Clark dives through to take second place as we ride with Ian Taylor into the Vale. In the lead though, Dave Loudon strengthening his championship lead in the yellow car. He won round 3 at Le Mans in France, and now he looks set to take his second Rover race victory. Through Club Corner and onto the famous Abbey Curve, taken flat out in 5th gear. And now we're riding with Martin Short, who's running in 5th place. Ahead of him, Nick Carr. He's pulling away in an attempt to pass Ian Taylor. Into the Abbey Curve, Nick Carr moving down the inside of Ian Taylor, and Short's going to try and follow him through. That's at over 120 miles an hour, over the crest of Ridge Corner, taking it over 100, and they're side by side, Short alongside Taylor, but Taylor fighting back, tries to hold on to 4th place. He's managed it. Now we're into the complex, Priory, Brooklands, Luffield, all tricky 90-degree corners, and Short's trying yet again. Big armful of oversteer, but he's closing all the time. Taylor now being forced to take a defensive line. Taylor's running wide, he leaves the door open, Short's in there. And Short clips the tail of him. Taylor spins off out of contention. Manages to get going again, but Ian Taylor will be furious as the field streams through. He restarts from the back of the pack. Crossing the line though, it's Dave Loudon with a comfortable lead from Chris Clark and Nick Carr. Ahead of in 4th place, that battling Martin Short. Let's take another look at that incident. Clark and Carr are well ahead, but then watch out for Taylor and Short side by side, and as Taylor tries to take his racing line, Short clips his tail, and Taylor slides out of contention. Now look at it from Ian Taylor's point of view. He's aiming to get a quick line through the corner, but not defending his position as that gap down is inside, and he's torpedoed by Short's rather aggressive approach. Now let's look at it from Nigel Edwards' grandstand seat. And as Taylor slides across the track, Nigel Petch ahead of him stands on the brakes, and both drivers have a very narrow escape indeed. But the excitement's continuing. Edwards, Hazel, Humphrey and Rob Shirl are now locked in a frantic battle as they approach Beckett's. We're in car with Nigel Edwards. Rob Shirl goes ahead of him into the first section of Beckett's. It's a corkscrew series of bends now, don't forget. And then you're through into the second left-handed section, then hard onto the power for the third right-handed section. But it's not so for Nigel. The tail's stepped out, he's trying to control it, and the car slides to a standstill. The engine's dead, and he has to restart the engine and rejoin the track right at the tail of the top 10. This is the battle for second place. Chris Clark on the left, Nick Carr on the right. Big moment at Stoke Corner there for Carr. That's given Clark the advantage with a chance to pursue Dave Loudon for the lead. So we've now got Loudon, then Clark, then Carr, spread out 1, 2, 3, but the battles are continuing all the way down the field. Dave Loudon, though, comfortably out in front, looking for that second successive victory. Don't forget, he's already got 2 sets of maximum points. 1 set of points from Le Mans, the other set as a result of finishing second to the celebrity car here in the first race of the season. That car driven by Slim Baldwin, of course, doesn't gain any championship points. So Dave Loudon really in a strong championship position. But look at this battle. Number 8, Mark Humphrey. Number 24, Rob Shirl. And a decisive move there through the Abbey curve, flat out in top gear. Takes Mark Humphrey up 1 place ahead of Rob Shirl, but Rob Shirl is determined not to give up. Wheels locking, under braking. Look how Rob Shirl is closing all the way. Mark Humphrey got his boot lid and mirrors completely full of Rover GTi, but Mark Humphrey now has gained a little bit of ground through the double right-hander at Luffield. Onto the second section of that new right-hander, then out through the Woodcote corner. Now we rejoin the race leader, Dave Loudon. 1 lap to go, so Dave Loudon is just 3.2 miles from home, 3.2 miles from his second Rover GTi victory. Behind him, Clark, Carr, Short, Hedge and Humphrey. So a tremendous battle. You can see Dave Loudon watching his mirrors as he goes through Maggots and then into the Beckett's complex for the final time. He knows he has a comfortable margin, but he also knows that he has to preserve his tyres. He has to make sure he doesn't make a single mistake because the 2 cars are less than a second behind him. Onto the Hanger Straight for the last time, the fastest point of the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. The Rover GTi 1600cc car builds itself up to over 130 miles an hour. Now look at Nick Carr into the slipstream there of Chris Clark. He's pulled out, he's tried to do it, but Chris Clark holds the tighter inside racing line through Stoke Corner. The corner now tightens down into the Vale, and as you can see from Dave Loudon, he's managed to put out a little bit of extra ground because the 2 cars behind him are dicing, but it's still Chris Clark in second place. Out of the Vale, through Club Corner, onto Abbey Curve. This, of course, the ideal practice for Dave Loudon. The next race on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit will be at the Grand Prix meeting itself in front of over 100,000 people. That's the one everybody wants to win, and at the moment Dave Loudon looks set to be the favourite. Although look at the battling performance from Nick Carr and Chris Clark in 3rd and 2nd places. Bridge Corner, regarded as the most challenging corner on the Silverstone circuit, then down through the 90-degree corners of the complex, through Priory, and the next left-hander at Brooklands, then the double right-hander at Luffield, which opens out onto the famous Woodcote corner. Through the second part of Luffield, the cars opening out 1, 2, 3. It's Dave Loudon preparing for the checkered flag. There is the flag marshal, there is the flag, there is Dave Loudon, so he takes his second successive victory, followed by Chris Clark and Nick Carr, 1, 2, 3. Meanwhile, a tremendous fight back through the field from Ian Taylor, dropped right to the tail of the field, and he's charging right up to the very end. Crosses the line to complete the race, Ian Taylor back up into the top 10. For Dave Loudon, now with a comfortable championship lead. Dave Loudon ahead of Chris Clark and Nick Carr. There we see the championship positions as opposed to race. Dave Loudon, Martin Short, Mark Hazel, then a dead heat for 4th between Nigel Edwards, Owen Hall and Ian Taylor. Now the cars head west to Castle Combe in Wiltshire, one of the toughest tracks in Great Britain. It's incredibly fast, reaching over 130 miles an hour, but it's also incredibly bumpy. A true test of driving skill and suspension. And there's the usual frantic excitement as Mark Humphrey leads Stewart Senior, Nick Carr, Owen Hall and Dave Loudon out the quarry corner down to Old Paddock. In car with Loudon, the 4 leaders ahead, and it's flat out in top gear all the way round to the tight right-hander at quarry corner. Over 125 miles an hour, you can see the cars bouncing around on the bumps, and over that crest you've got to go left and then flick right for a very tight right-hander. Hard onto the brakes, all the leaders are through safely, then it's back up to maximum speed down the Dean Straight. Mark Humphrey's still in front. He's anxious to impress his local sponsor, Swindon Automobiles, but there are 4 other cars already piling on the pressure. Field too. Simon Weston's driving the Phillips Celebrity car, and he's just managing to hold off David Cole. And back to Old Paddock Corner, and the top 4 are just inches apart at over 120 miles an hour. Mark Humphrey leads, but Stewart Senior's challenging, and he dives through. Brilliant move. Senior, those running wide, he's going to be later on the power. Mark Humphrey is fighting back. They've got that long flat-out run to quarry corner, and you can see Humphrey is back through into the lead. He's got the left-hand side of the track. That's where he wants to be. But look at Nick Carr. He's also challenging. Nick Carr now side by side. Dave Loudon challenging there. Owen Hall. 5 cars all standing on the brakes to drop down for 50 miles an hour for that tight right-hander. And amazingly, the leaders get through okay. But that's Martin Short, the Huntingdonshire man, running out of luck and out of road as he and Ian Taylor tangle. But just look at the leading group as they approach Tower Corner. Owen Hall's forcing Stewart Senior wide. Stewart Senior, they're 2 wheels on the grass, 4 wheels on the grass, over 100 miles an hour. We're watching from Nick Carr. Senior rejoins the track, but he's hit the back of race leader Mark Humphrey and pushed him wide. Now Humphrey's fighting for control. There's a chance for Owen Hall, who dives through the gap between the pair to take the lead. Mark Humphrey obviously was not amused. And as the Castle-Combe bumps test the Rover suspension to the absolute limit, it's Owen Hall from Daventry in Northamptonshire who leads the race from Stewart Senior. Now Nick Carr moves up to second place as is spectacularly sliding. Owen Hall takes the checkered flag, while after taking his second place, Nick Carr was obviously enjoying the Dunlop Rover GTi Championship.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's very well organised. I mean, the cars, because the cars are all very tightly controlled, it's all down to driver skill, really, and because of that, it makes for very close racing.
Round 6 brought the Rovers back to Silverstone for one of the most incident-packed races of the year. The cars were all on their slick, untreaded, dry weather tyres, but as the race started, a rain shower made the track greasy, and the result was very spectacular indeed. Baldwin there hits the tail of Mark Humphrey's car, and he's then collected by Stewart Senior, and there are about 4 cars involved there, all colliding with one another as they try to take avoiding action. Meanwhile, down into Brooklands for the 3rd time, and it's a move under braking. Dave Loudon trying to go the long way around the outside, but taking the tighter line. Nick Carr, he moves ahead. Ian Taylor taking advantage of that because Dave Loudon lost momentum there, and he's now moved through. So Dave Loudon at Brooklands corner loses the lead and drops to 3rd position. Another spinner, car number 19, Peter Clark, and he's hit by James Kendall's car. A very heavy impact indeed. Championship leader Dave Loudon spins down the field, out of contention, rejoins the race, right back down in 13th place. Very disappointing for Dave Loudon. 3 times he's lost positions at Brooklands corner. And a big moment there for Nick Carr. A huge spin. He collects Chris Clark. Chris Clark's radiators burst. Nick Carr manages to recover. But I think his car's handling has been damaged. You can see it rolling much more than the others as they go through Beckett's corner. Also continuing there, Chris Clark with steam pouring from the front I'd be very surprised if he's going to make the checkered flag. Now we see it from inside Chris Clark's car. You can see Nick Carr weaving there. That may be a tyre failure, whatever it was. The two cars make contact, and then a very heavy contact. There you see the steam from the burst radiator. Nick Carr continues, Chris Clark attempts to, but with no water in the cooling system, I can't see that car going very far at all. But meanwhile, we've got two spinners, Richard Austin, Rob Shirl, both spin off at Brooklands, but both managed to rejoin. But meanwhile, some very aggressive action down the field. That's David Galanders once again. John Gervin, the Birmingham antique dealer, literally forcing Galanders to stay off the track. Meanwhile, we rejoin this battle for third place as they come through the last corners. They've been through Brooklands, they're taking Luffield, they're on the way to Woodcote Corner, and it's still Nigel Edwards holding on for third place from Mark Hazel, from Nigel Petch, and that's the way they cross the line. Number 2, Nigel Edwards, takes that third place. Ahead of him, of course, Peter Baldwin second, but the race winner, car 14, Ian Taylor. The checkered flag out, but the action continues. That's that dice between David Galanders and John Gervin. Galanders runs wide at Brooklands, over the grass, over the curbs, over the cones, and then he's collected. Number 29, John Gervin. Gervin spins, but still finishes 16th place. The experience of Ian Taylor and Peter Baldwin giving them a 1-2. And despite only finishing 6th, Dave Loudon was still able to hold on to his championship lead with 103 points ahead of Owen Hall's 67. And at Donington Park for round 7, Loudon's distinctive yellow car was on pole position, but he was still keeping a close watch on his rivals.
My normal rivals don't seem to qualify as well. Ian Taylor's well up, Martin Short's there on the front row as well, and then Nick Carr's 5th, I guess. It's a job to say because quite a few of the front runners in the championship are in fact sort of mid-grid, which will be interesting.
Going to win?
Yeah.
The lights change to green. 29 equally matched Rover GTIs depart on 12 laps, 30 miles around the Donington Park circuit, in car with David Galanders, and he's missed a gear. Galanders selects 5th instead of 3rd. Charging through goes Richard Austin, charging through goes Robert Shirl, but out in front Dave Loudon leads Ian Taylor, Martin Shaw, 1, 2, 3. Now we look back from Owen Hall's car, Mark Hazel, Peter Baldwin, they're dicing through Redgate Corner, but the field now streaming down the Kramer curves. Dave Loudon out in front ahead of Ian Taylor, but look back through the field there, they're streaming down into the old hairpin. Look back to the left hand side of your screen now, a terrifying accident there for Nigel Petch, 80 miles an hour backwards into the Armco barrier. A terrifying moment indeed, but Petch out of the car on her, testimony to the strength of these Rover GTIs. Now we're in car with Peter Baldwin. 2 cars ahead on the right hand side of the screen. There we see Petch's car, 2 wheels on the dirt, spins right across, very narrow escape for Mark Jones, but out of the car and out of the race is Nigel Petch. These cars so equally matched, you stay on the power as long as you possibly can, leave the braking to a minimum. That's what Dave Loudon's doing out in front, 3-wheeling through McLean's corner. Ian Taylor and Martin Short coming under some pressure now from Robert Shirl. So battling all the way down the field, Richard Austin there in the number 12 car. We're riding again with David Galanders. The number 12 car, Richard Austin, up ahead of him through Coppice Corner. Very important double apex corner this. You'll see him turn into the curve for a second time there. The reason it's important is it governs your speed down that long straight. You can see the cars slipstreaming, trying to get as close as possible to one another, so the car in front makes a hole in the air. Galanders now moves out of the slipstream, trying to make a move down the inside of Richard Austin. 2 wheels on the curb. Richard Austin closes the door over the crest down to the Melbourne hairpin for the second time. For the brake lights of the car in front, everybody leaving their braking to the last possible moment, and in car 18 David Galanders certainly does that, tries to find a way down the inside of Richard Austin, but taking advantage of it. Andrew McKenzie also there moving up alongside Galanders, but Galanders has got the inside line for Goddard's. Richard Austin gets a brief breathing space, but Galanders in a superb out-braking manoeuvre down the inside of Goddard's. Richard Austin forced wide, forced onto the curbs, but he's still side by side with Galanders. Start line to start the 3rd lap. Don't forget, this is the dice for 10th place. 3 cars abreast into Redgate Corner. Richard Austin on the inside, David Galanders on the outside. Andrew McKenzie drops back a little bit through Redgate, try and get a slingshot down the outside of Galanders through the Kramer curves, but Galanders defending his line. A tremendous battle, and this is the sort of battles all the way down the field in the Rover Series. This is the battle for 10th place. hairpin, but up ahead of these runners. Dave Loudon still in the race lead, ahead of Ian Taylor, ahead of Martin Short, Robin Shirl and Mark Humphries, but a big spin there for James Kendall, and another car rejoining on the grass at the old hairpin, Joe Ellis there in car 26. Meanwhile, we rejoin that battle for 4th place. Mark Humphries still challenging Robert Shirl into the S's, though Humphries still having to be content with 5th place. 1 lap remaining, but a huge spin for David Galanders. Opposite lock one way, opposite lock the other, and avoiding him there, Peter Baldwin. So I think more than meets the eye, it was more than just a spin there. There's so much debris on the track, but Galanders able to rejoin. The battle for 4th place continues down into Goddard's hairpin. The end of the penultimate lap. Cars starting the last lap, but we rejoin Peter Baldwin in that number 5 car. Galanders up ahead of him. Galanders closes the door on Richard Austin. He locks up. Owen Hall spins, and cars going in all directions. Mayhem at McLean's corner. Hall's car comes. Ouch! And Hall's car comes across there, takes a very heavy blow. And amazingly, Peter Baldwin also able to recover. Now we look back from Owens Hall's car. Coming into the very fast corner. There, his car steps sideways, swings one way, swings the other, and crunch again. Cars going in all directions, spinning all over the track. Mayhem on the penultimate lap of the race, but the amazing sight of all 4 of those cars still continuing, albeit 5 or 6 places further down the field, and still dicing. There you see the damage to Owen Hall's car. Now looking back from Owen Hall, he's dicing with John Girvan. Girvan rejoining the back of that group. His car undamaged in the mayhem on the penultimate lap. This, though, the battle for 4th place. And it's Rob Shirl ahead of Humphrey at McLean's, but Humphrey's challenging. He's going through at Cobby's corner. And it's Mark Humphries up into 4th place. Rob Shirl down to 5th, but Shirl's fighting back as they go onto the Wheatcroft straight. He's tucked right into the slipstream of Humphrey's car. You can see Chris Clark closing up as well now. He's in 6th place. So 4th, 5th and 6th fighting all the way down the straight. This is fantastic. And look at this 5-car battle. This, of course, is the battle for 14th. But race leader on his way through the Melbourne hairpin for the final time. One more corner before the checkered flag. Maximum championship points on the line for Dave Loudon. Ian Taylor still holding on in 2nd place, but through Goddard's corner, taking the checkered flag, a jubilant Dave Loudon. Ian Taylor takes 2nd, Martin Short takes 3rd, but at the McLean's hairpin, Peter Baldwin still heading that dice for 14th place. He checks his mirrors, and for good reason. Look at this gaggle. Ray Davies, last of the late breakers, dives down the inside to claim 15th place. Looking back from Owen Hall's car, these cars charging all the way through the race. This is the battle for 14th position. Charging all the way through the field, and again another last-minute outbraking effort there by Stuart Senior. His car literally wedged on the back of Owen Hall's car. There's Ray Davies, there's the checkered flag, and just 1 second covering some 9 cars. Victory at Donington Park for Dave Loudon, his 3rd of the year, and that strengthens his championship lead. Behind him, 3rd on the track was Martin Short, and that moves him up to 2nd in the series. Silverstone for round 8, and Loudon again takes the lead, but is Martin Short's car just inches behind as we look back from Loudon's rear bumper. Martin Short moving up with Ian Taylor on his outside, and it's into Cobb's corner for the first time. Position man Martin Short forced to settle for 2nd place. 1 car running wide, but it's Dave Loudon, Martin Short, Ian Taylor. 1, 2, 3 as they go down for the Beckett's hairpin on the Silverstone National Circuit. Hard under the brakes, Martin Short closing all the time. Ian Taylor and Chris Clark 3rd and 4th places ahead of Peter Baldwin. Apart at over 100 miles an hour on the club straight. Martin Short hoping to find a way past under braking for Brooklands corner. Into the braking area, Loudon holds the tighter racing line. Ian Taylor trying to find a way past Martin Short. This is tremendous one-mate racing. The cars slipping and sliding. Off the throttle, the tail slides out. Back on the throttle, the nose starts to slide out. You can see the drivers controlling the car on the throttle pedal. racing. And 1, 2, 3, Loudon, Short and Chris Clark cross the finish line to take the checkered flag, split by less than a second. And Loudon's victory further strengthened his championship hopes. And if he were to finish strongly in the next race, he'd become champion with 3 races remaining. And that one was the big one, in front of 100,000 people at the British Grand Prix, with Formula One team boss Eddie Jordan in the hot seat of the celebrity car. And as Dave Loudon checks out his opposition at Silverstone, his championship rival Ian Taylor's been thinking about a change of tactics to swing the results in his favour.
The start will be important. If you look at the last 2 races, Loudon has done very good starts and I haven't, which doesn't bode very well. If I could get in front of him, then he's got to pass me. I personally feel that I've made a mistake the last 2 races, not trying to attack a little earlier or on the first lap. I've noticed that Loudon does like to take a lap to settle down. So if I am behind him, I shall make a big effort on the first lap to get past him. Don't tell him I said this, will you? But we'll have to wait and see.
And watch out for the celebrity car. Eddie Jordan qualified 14th, and as the lights go to green, he's already in the thick of the action. We ride with Eddie as he gains 2 places already. That's Nick Carr on the left, Mark Humphries on the right. They were on row 4. Into Copse, Ian Taylor challenges on the outside, but it's Chris Clark that leads, and Eddie Jordan's really in the thick of it. Richard Hahn, Owen Hall are both squeezed out as Mark Hazel charges through on the inside. Still riding with Eddie Jordan, up through Maggots and then into the new Beckett's complex. At the front of the field, it's Clark leading Taylor, Peter Baldwin through to 3rd place, and then Loudon in 4th. But behind them a spinner. That's Martin Short, 2nd in the championship, and Chaos, number 7 Mark Hazel, number 4 Richard Hahn, both collide avoiding him. That means all those places that Hazel gained with that superb start into Copse have gone. Down Hanger Straight, riding with Ian Taylor, ahead of him race leader Chris Clark. 130 miles an hour in top gear. Taylor closes up, he's out of Clark's slipstream, challenges down the outside at Stowe Corner. Side by side, but Chris Clark's got the inside line, so it's still Clark in the lead. Then Taylor, Baldwin, Loudon, Ackley and Edwards as they go through into the Vale. Now we take another look at the start, this time with that fast starter, Mark Hazel. Eddie Jordan ahead of him in the Phillips car, but it's Hazel taking a look down the pit wall. 3rd gear, maximum revs, into 4th gear, then down into Copse Corner. There's daylight on the inside of Owen Hall, and an amazing move, brilliant. Mark Hazel goes through, gains about 6 places, but now out of Copse. Mark Hazel up into the lead group from 17th on the grid, flat out through the Maggots curve and hard onto the brakes for Beckett's. Look to your right, there's Martin Short spinning. Mark Hazel takes avoiding action, then ouch, that's Richard Hahn. But the battle for the lead certainly continuing at Stowe. And contact as Taylor challenges Clark. He's boxed in now and Dave Loudon's going round the outside of them both. Side by side through Stowe Corner, and it's still Chris Clark who holds the lead. We join Ian Taylor as they battle through Vale. Clark, now championship leader Loudon in 2nd place, then a furious Ian Taylor in 3rd, and Peter Baldwin's 4th as the leaders start to break away at the head of the field. Out of Club Corner and onto the flat-out run through the Abbey curve, and behind Clark and Loudon, Ian Taylor's fighting back for 2nd place. Now with Martin Short out of the reckoning, Dave Loudon could clinch the series with 2nd in this race, but with his biggest championship rival right on his rear bumper, he's not going to be able to relax for a minute. Through Bridge into Priory, riding with Ian Taylor. Clark and Loudon right ahead, battling for the lead. Behind Ian Taylor in 4th place, it's still Peter Baldwin, but Andy Ackley's back up to 5th and charging ahead of Edwards. Field still riding with Ian Taylor, race leaders ahead of him, championship leader in 2nd place, that's Dave Loudon, ahead of him Chris Clark. 22-year-old Chris Clark leads a Rover race for the first time, and what a race to lead, the British Grand Prix support race. 22 years old, only in his 2nd season of motor racing. He's leading the 6-car train across the line. Clark, Loudon, Taylor, Baldwin, Ackley and Edwards, all just covered by 2 seconds. And a moment to savour for Chris Clark, winning his first ever motor race in front of the British Grand Prix crowd. But Dave Loudon takes 2nd place, and that's enough to give him the championship title with 3 races remaining. Dave Loudon delighted with the result and delighted to become the first Dunlop Rover GTi champion.
I must admit, it is a surprise to win it so early. I knew that if I won today and Ian Taylor and Martin Short didn't finish in the top 3, I think I calculated that I'd won it. And I must admit, I saw in the mirrors that they'd both disappeared, so I was thinking, well, second is good enough, but I didn't want to be finished second. I was desperate to win this race, and Chris Clark drove very well, immaculately really, covered my every move. I tried filling his mirrors, I tried inside, outside, all over the place, and no, he had it covered, he drove well.
Loudon's domination leaves him unbeatable at the top of the championship table, but Martin Short can't afford to relax in second place. With 3 races remaining, Ian Taylor is closing fast. Peter Baldwin in the red car leads off the line at Silverstone from round 10, but a disaster for Loudon. He and Mark Humphrey had their qualifying times disallowed, and they started 10 seconds behind the field, facing a battle through this kind of action to get back into contention. Nick Carr in trouble, but so was Peter Baldwin, losing his lead to a charging Chris Clark. The Surrey driver takes the lead at Beckett's corner, Peter Baldwin holding on in second place, but unable to match the pace of the green car. As Nick Carr cruised into the pits to retire, the damage done by his spin had put his car both out of the race and out of championship contention. But still in the battle for championship honours though, Ian Taylor and Martin Short, they're battling for 4th place and keeping their championship hopes alive, as Chris Clark takes the checkered flag, but the story still wasn't to end there. Scrutineered and checked for eligibility, and during those checks at Silverstone, the RAC scrutineers uncovered some technical infringement on Clark's car. He was excluded from the results, handing victory to Peter Baldwin. The penultimate round of the Dunlop Rover GTi Championship moved north to Donington Park near Derby, and the initial race leader Mark Humphrey was quickly deposed by champion Dave Loudon as he dominated on his way to yet another victory. GTi Championship still continued to give us spectacular action, as Martin Short was one of several casualties of the very hot pace down at the old hairpin. Touring car ace Graham Good was in the thick of the action in the Phillips Celebrity car, while Ken Grundy was testing the suspension of his Rover to the absolute limit. But in perfect control at the head of the field, with 8 laps of the 10 completed, was Dave Loudon, but then the race was stopped as a result of this horrendous accident. David Cole's car suffered a brake failure, T-boned the car of Peter Baldwin and destroyed both of them. Quite rightly, the officials immediately stopped the race, but we were delighted to see Dave Cole and Peter Baldwin step from their cars unhurt. Meanwhile, back on the starting grid, Mark Humphrey was the first to congratulate Dave Loudon on yet another victory in his domination of the 1991 series. But let's have another look at that accident. Peter Baldwin's the innocent party. He turns into the corner normally. Dave Cole, with no brakes, collects him. The car somersaults across the gravel and bounces to a standstill. A true testimony to the strength of the safety equipment of the Rover GTIs. In fact, Baldwin's car was back at Silverstone just 2 weeks later.
The car had to go on a jig and be pulled back into shape, and 2 complete new sides in the car. But it's a fairly good friend of mine who runs a body shop near Cambridge, and his name's John Soul, and he's done a brilliant job to get us out in time, and the car now looks really good.
3 drivers could still win the HeliLink Advancer Award for overtaking the most cars through the season. They're all battling for the prize of riding to the Silverstone Grand Prix meeting by helicopter in '92.
The plan was to go around steady. It was a terrible day yesterday, the weather was atrocious, and I just sort of plonked the car around just literally to qualify, and they said, oh, you twit, you're 6th from the bottom, not last. But, well, there we are. No, not to worry. There's still a lot of people in front I reckon I can get past. The car was all on dry setup as well. It's going to be good today. It's going to be very, very good. I don't like this track though. I can't remember where the corners are. There's too many of them, especially the new wiggly bits.
The engine revs rise, the red lights are on, they go to green. A superstar from championship leader Dave Loudon, also from Nigel Edwards and Ray Arms. And look at the action at the back of the field. That was James Kendall. Richard Austin also in that action, and Ken Grundy collects Kendall's car and is limping at the back of the field. But out at the front, it's Ray Arms and Dave Loudon battling side by side through Cops Corner for the first time. Mark Hazel, he's in 6th place, tucked in on Peter Baldwin. Baldwin's tail. So it's Loudon, Arms, Edwards, Baldwin and Hall. Meanwhile, Ken Grundy out of the race as their leaders enter the Beckett's complex for the first time. Loudon, Edwards, Arms. Looking back from Ian Taylor, he's in 8th place. That's Mark Jones and David Galander's behind. So the top 10, Dave Loudon, Nigel Edwards, Ray Arms, Owen Hall, Peter Baldwin, Martin Short, Mark Hazel, Ian Taylor, Mark Jones and David Galander's. The top 10 down Hanger Straight for the first time. Fastest circuit for the Rovers. The cars reaching over 130 miles an hour in 5th gear on the Hanger Straight. And slipstreaming already. Edwards using the shape of Dave Loudon's Rover to cut the hole in the air for him to try and gain ground as they go through Snow Corner for the first time. This, the new Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. The cars dip down into the Vale. Two tight left-handers stand on the brakes down to 2nd gear. That's Mark Hazel going through round the outside of Martin Short, closing on the tail of Peter Baldwin. Hazel up to 6th place as they exit the tight club corner and onto the long sweeping left-hander of Abbey Curve. We take a look back at the replay of the start now. Watch the right-hand side of your screen. Number 9, Keith Bird, he's slow off the line and the field's bunched up behind him. Now watch out for Richard Austin. He hits the back of number 31, that's James Kendall's car. Kendall slews across the track. Just look at Austin fighting for control of the yellow car, but poor old Ken Grundy collects the back of the Red Rover and he is out of the reckoning.
Somebody spun across me and I just collected him and he's hit right on the wheel and it's just pushed the wheel right over. So the steering was round about 45 degrees. I thought it was too far to go 20-something miles and the arms crossed.
Grundy out of the running, but the battle for the lead really is continuing in fine style with Dave Loudon still holding off Nigel Edwards and Ray Arms. Looking back again from Ian Taylor's car down in 8th place. Nick Jones there in 9th, but it's Loudon at the head of the field. Nigel Edwards, then Ray Arms, then Owen Hall, Peter Baldwin, Mark Hazel. But this superb rear view from Taylor's car shows how close the racing is all the way down the top 10. Crossing the line to start lap 2, it's Loudon from Edwards, then Arms, a super drive from Ray Arms in the Celebrity car. This is the first time he's driven a Rover in anger. Into Cops Corner with Mark Hazel and a huge sideways moment. Martin Short is already back through into 6th place and I'm quite sure, yes, I think he's been clipped up the tail. He's fingering in his rear view mirror at Ian Taylor, who no doubt gave him a healthy nudge going into Cops Corner. Into Beckett's Corner though, and it's now Ray Arms up to 2nd place. Out-dragged Nigel Edwards out of Cops, now up into 2nd and already setting about closing that gap on Dave Loudon. Edwards though fighting back, only a few inches separating these cars at well over 100 miles an hour, accelerating up to 130 into 5th gear down the Hanger Straight, using the slipstream of the car ahead. Now you notice Loudon's moved across the track there. That's making sure Ray Arms has to make his own hole in the air and can't gain any advantage. And the car's stacking up behind Arms now as they go through Stowe Corner and then the sharp right down into the Vale. Riding with Owen Hall, looking at the back bumper of Nigel Edwards' car. Owen Hall building himself up for a move, under braking for the tight left and right at club. And Ray Arms charges Dave Loudon's car. Loudon spins down to 4th place. Ray Arms through into the lead. Nigel Edwards up into 2nd place. Owen Hall 3rd and Dave Loudon rejoins in 4th ahead of Peter Baldwin. What a turn up for the championship leader. Celebrity car of Ray Arms, the Phillips Celebrity car out at the head of the field. But Dave Loudon furious at the back of that group. I'm quite sure he's going to do his best to fight back. He's already looking for a way around the outside of Owen Hall. Riding with Owen Hall now down through Bridge under the brakes for Priory, the two tight left-handers of Priory and Brooklands. You see Nigel Edwards in 2nd place ahead and the Phillips Celebrity car leading there of Ray Arms. So it's Arms, Edwards and now Loudon through into 3rd place. Owen Hall sliding wide. We're now riding with Mark Hazel. You can see the activity up ahead. Contact between Martin Short and Dave Loudon. A fantastic piece of avoidance. But Loudon now really dropping back down the field. But race leader Ray Arms using all the track and a little bit more at Woodcote Corner as he comes through to start the lap, still in the lead from Nigel Edwards and Owen Hall. And this is as close as you can get to the pit wall for Owen Hall, trying to find a gap down the inside. It wasn't there. He's now moved to the outside to try and get a better line through Cops Corner, try and get a little bit of higher exit speed on the way out, perhaps to make his move down the inside at the Beckett's complex. Weaving across the track again, and this time Nigel Edwards was getting blocked a little bit there by Ray Arms, but still no way he can do it. But a big moment for Nick Carr. number 20 Nick Carr. He was trying to find his way past number 4 Richard Han. His race is definitely over, but it's so nice to see him able to walk away from that. On to Hanger Straight. This could be Owen Hall's last chance. Hall again pulling in ground all the way down Hanger Straight, but it's only by 1 or 2 miles an hour. Is it going to be enough to let him attack on the braking area for Stowe? He's certainly trying it right round the outside. But again, Edwards keeping his cool. He's managed to maintain that pressure in his mirrors for some 10 laps of this race, and he's certainly not yet going to let Owen Hall through. Again, on the brakes for the club corner. A little bit of a locked wheel there from Edwards. Maybe the pressure's beginning to tell. Meanwhile, Ray Davis is still picking off the places, still holding off car number 30. Chris Clark there to hold on to the Improvers Award title. He too through the veil, but he's got a clear track ahead of him. He's more worried about the car on his rear bumper, but this is the battle going right down to the line through Abbey Curve for the last time. The car's spreading out a little bit. That may be deliberate by Owen Hall so he can get a better run through bridge and try a last-ditch move through the complex. Arms holds the pace through Priory. Hall again closing up all the time, again using a slightly different racing line. Edwards using a very tight line into the corners to block any out-braking manoeuvres. Hall trying to keep his momentum up through the corners. They've now also been joined by Mark Jones, so it's 4 cars all battling through the last 2 corners of this race. Any of them could win, but Ray Arms still at the head of the field. Nigel Edwards runs tight. Owen Hall running wide. He's going right round the outside. Is this going to be a dead heat even for second place? Ray Arms takes the lead, but 2 cars side by side across the line. Nigel Edwards and Owen Hall. Hall obviously delighted with that race, thoroughly enjoying himself. Mark Jones in a definite 4th place from Ian Taylor and Mark Hazel. But a superb finish to the season for the Dunlop Rover GTi Championship. Ray Davis comes across the line to collect the Hellylink Award. He'll be arriving in style at Silverstone next year for his Rover racing, having gained 7 places from 24th on the grid. And now we can confirm those results after the 12th and final checkered flag of the series, and as Dave Loudon's dominated to become the first ever Dunlop Rover GTi champion, and the new cars have proved the best of British in one-make saloon car racing. Rover's 2-on-6 GTi Championship, the Dunlop Metro GTi Challenge mixed racing with rallying. The 12-round series was divided equally between circuit racecraft and the rather different discipline of tarmac special stage events. The first 4 championship rounds were all rallies, with the Metro drivers receiving their baptism of fire on the West Cork Rally in Ireland. It wasn't just the first event of the year, it was also the debut of the Metro GTi in motorsport, and fittingly Tony Pond, the former Works Rover driver who'd done so much of the development work on the new car, donned the overalls and the helmet to make a celebrity appearance. He was to set a benchmark performance for the registered contenders. Also in Ireland was John Price in the MG Metro 6R4, a car that must have stirred memories for Tony Pond, who'd taken part in the World Rally Championship with the Rover Group B supercar. The distinctive howl of the V6 mid-mounted engine, a significant contrast to the 1.4-litre GTIs. Less powerful but lighter and more agile, and Shropshire poultry farmer Lance Gilmore looked to have the measure of the Irish roads early on the first day. But behind him, David Hall was obviously having a little bit of trouble getting used to the Metro on the handbrake turns. Despite the weather, the Metro men thoroughly enjoyed a rally-long tussle in conditions that perhaps explain why the scenery stays so green in Southern Ireland. But it left the narrow lanes choked with mud. In Ireland were tough but enjoyable rallying. Don Kettleborough was putting in a determined bid to be the winner of this this inaugural event for the Metro GTIs, pushing hard through Clonakilty town centre in an excitement-packed close to the day's rallying, much to the delight of the locals who gathered in numbers to watch the action. By Sunday morning, the battle between the Metro runners had become a head-to-head between Don Kettleborough and David Hall, with Lance Gilmore in third place trying a little too hard to make up ground. In contrast, David Hall had a neat, tidy and extremely quick style, the ideal example to show the Irishman how it was done. Perhaps the eventual overall winner of the event, Bill Connolly in the BMW M3, could have learned a trick or two from the Metro men. But there was late event drama for David Hall, cruel luck rather than mechanical or driving error, dropping him down to second place behind Kettleborough.
We're going to run out of petrol in. Oh, right. Yes, we've just been to service and the van were locked up with no petrol. So if we run out of petrol halfway through, we'll just scream. Oh, good. Oh, how very sporting, if I may say so.
Much to Don Kettleborough's delight, a round one victory seemed to be heading in his direction, as Hall limped through the final stage, while more petrol remained in the tank of his Metro. The Dorr family, Father Doug and San Andy, both retired from round one in Ireland, but despite the spin for Andrew, they were both in contention throughout round two, the Tour of Lincolnshire Rally. Running through a number of airfields and across agricultural land, the Tour of Links gave the Metros a change of scenery for the second outing of the year. Another driver right on the pace here was Malcolm Oxborough, who'd also failed to finish in Ireland, but in the Lincolnshire Worlds, his lead was almost a minute as the one-day rally neared its end.
We've had a pretty steady run so far. Just getting back into it again after 11 years. Enjoying it though, good thrash.
Ralph Peake, fifth in Ireland, picked up more valuable points for his championship challenge on the links, second to Oxborough, while Paul Northall, still trying to sort his car, was in third place. The next round took the cars deep into the West Country for the Tour of Cornwall, and Tony Pond made his second guest appearance in the series, driving the number 21 Metro GTi. Starting from Newquay, as the name suggests, the Tour of Cornwall is exactly that, covering the county with good fast stages across military ranges and private parkland. These are stages that would suit the agile and quick Metro GTIs right down to the ground. With Malcolm Oxborough winning the links, he started as one of the pre-event favourites, although the old hand Paul Northall was the top seed. Ralph Peake, the championship leader by 2 points, pushed Oxborough, but the first round winner, Don Kettleborough, was also points, collecting nothing in Lincolnshire. A two-day event, and into service at the end of the first day, the mechanics fettling the cars, ready for Sunday's busy run. Oxborough maintained his lead onto the start of the second day to complete the event and take a maximum 12 points. Behind him, Ralph Peake's long trek from the Isle of Man was rewarded with 10 points for second place, so he finished third. And with 3 rounds gone, here's how the overall table looked, with Ralph Peake leading the series ahead of Malcolm Oxborough after his 11-year absence from the wheel, then Don Kettleborough and John MacDonald equalled third. Round 4 continued the rally tradition, but this time on the closed public roads of the Isle of Man for the Manx Rally, where slick tyres are a must. And Ralph Peake, as a resident of the island, was an obvious favourite, but he had a challenge from Oxborough and from Don Kettleborough. Northall had been to the island before, but he found life far from easy with both Oxborough and Peake out on the pace. The Manx Rally is always a test of skill and machinery, and bear in mind these are completely standard cars. The K-Series 1.4 litre 16-valve engine is sealed to prevent any modification, as is the transmission and the gearbox. Like the Rover GTi Racing Championship, the Dunlop Metro GTi Challenge is supported by Castrol Delco products and of course Dunlop tyres, who all provide product and expertise to the competitors, vitally needed when you're testing them to destruction on the roads of the Isle of Man. Speeds of over 100 miles an hour being reached on the closed road special stages, being driven on pace and competitors using it for the first time. And at the front of the field, it was the local man, Peak, and no stopping him as one or two of the faster competitors at the head of the field hit problems. As a fight to stay in with the limits of the more powerful cars, it was Ralph Peak at the head of the field, 12-point score. Oxborough had another strong showing in second place, and Don Kettleborough maintained his challenge with third, but the man of the day, Ralph Peak.
Had a very good day. Started off quickly in the morning just to see how we could go against the others, and we pulled out quite a good lead early on, so we've had quite a relaxing afternoon.
Corking the champagne for the first time, Ralph Peak celebrates victory on the home ground, the Manx National Rally, before round 5 when racing on for the first time. New Donington Park near Derby. Northolt took pole position after the qualifying session, and with him on the front row, series leader Ralph Peak and second place man Malcolm Oxborough. And it's Paul Northolt leading the pack away through Redgate Corner, the field streaming down through Redgate and then down the fearsome Kramer curves. Fifth gear, well over 100 miles an hour. Paul Northolt heading the field, then Ralph Peak, then Malcolm Oxborough as the rest of the cars string out, but pulling off onto the grass. That's Paul Northolt, the race leader, and he is obviously out of the running. That's leaving Ralph Peak in the lead, Malcolm Oxborough second place. And there we see Paul Northolt out with mechanical problems, looking under the bonnet of the Metro GTi, out of the reckoning. A bitter blow for him, but look at this battle for the lead. Ralph Peak, Malcolm Oxborough fighting all the way through the opening laps and literally kicking his heels. A very disappointed Paul Northolt. Down to the Melbourne hairpin and plenty of action among the field. Cars trying every which way to find a way around there. Panel damage there on car number 16. A shortcut through the gravel trap and a huge moment for 16. Both the cars though managing to continue. Plenty of opposite lock, and Ralph Peak though is still heading the rest home from Oxborough, Kettleborough and the sideways driver Dave Hall. The final lap and taking the checkered flag, it was Ralph Peak, followed by Malcolm Oxborough, then Kettleborough, Hall and Andy Dorr. From Donington it was on to the home of British circuit racing, Silverstone, and it was Oxborough's turn for pole position, although Kettleborough pushed him hard during qualifying, and at the green light Kettleborough got in front with the white car. You can see him there nosing ahead, middle of the pack. Oxborough tucking down the inside, getting a very hairy moment there. Two wheels on the curb, the Metro two-wheeling, and some spectacular action further down at Cobb's Corner. That's Ralph Peak, the man we expected to really show well, having seen his performance on the rally stages. A novice at the racing game, that's what that yellow and black cross is on the back of his car, and he's obviously learning the hard way. But at the front of the field, it's Kettleborough holding on for maximum points through Oxborough. Now Paul Northolt starting to challenge as well, but Oxborough there in a very strong second place, gaining all the time on Kettleborough. Fast and furious through the curves of the complex, the Brooklands-Luffield corners of the Silverstone National Circuit, the 1.5-mile lap, really proving hard for the drivers in these Metros. Precision and consistency is what mattered. A little bit of sideways motoring there from Kettleborough, that's giving Oxborough the chance again to close up, and the two drivers battling for those maximum 12 points. And it's still Kettleborough in the lead. He's controlling the speed of Oxborough through the corners into the famous corner as they approach the finish. And heading for the flag, it's Don Kettleborough heading home, Malcolm Oxborough, the West Midlands driver, then Paul Northolt in third place. The three men on the victory rostrum obviously delighted with their second motor race of the Dunlop Metro GTi Challenge. And it was back to Silverstone to take up business where they'd left off after a 2-month gap, and Ralph Peak seemed to have learned nothing from his previous visit. Fighting for control of the Metros, it weaves one way, then the other. A first lap disaster for the Manxman, who field. But look at this for an attempt to take the lead. Very ambitious for Malcolm Oxborough. It's got him on the grass and rejoining the club straight at the end of the field. Another waltzing Metro, and that has now left Adam Croton at the head of the field. Croton very much the man on form. Desperate for a good result after some rather disappointing performances in the earlier rounds. Anxious to please his sponsor, and there he is, head of the field at Silverstone. Behind him, second place, a battle between Paul and Andy Dorr, and it's Adam Croton out in front. Now we've got Ralph Peake still in the thick of the action. Fighting back from dead last on the track, he's going for the lead. To third as a result of taking a rather more cautious line at Cobb's Corner, but he's now up to the lead, passing Adam Croton as they go into Beckett's. Sideways motoring from the two red Metros. This is Metro GTi racing at its very best. Hard onto the brakes for Brooklands, and another disaster. Ralph Peake throws the car sideways, across the grass, back onto the track, fighting for traction, and back down to third. Let's take a look at that from outside of the car. He turns in, the back wheels lock up. He's almost an unfortunate passenger despite fighting with the steering wheel. And a bitter blow after fighting up from dead last place. So taking the checkered flag maximum championship points, Adam Croton must be delighted with that result. Ralph Peake, however, still maintains the championship lead ahead of Malcolm Oxborough and Don Kettleborough. A visit to Mallory Park was next for more racing, when Don Kettleborough narrowly beat Ralph Peake, with Adam Croton continuing his good run in third place. Ralph Peake continued in the championship lead ahead of Oxborough and Kettleborough. Peake then took his second race win of the season when the Metro GTIs returned to Donington Park in September. He added an extra point for fastest lap, leaving Paul Northall to pick up for second, arch rival Don Kettleborough third. Round 10 saw a return to rallying, and Ireland made a welcome change as the season went into its final quarter.
Well, John, I announced earlier that you're 26 years rallying. This is your 600th event, and the lads have got this special cake with you. Look at this, made out as a rally stage with the Metro.
Veteran John Price was embarking on his 600th rally, and the Irish had baked a cake to help him celebrate the occasion. But there'd been no sentimental victories. Despite his sterling efforts in the powerful Metro 6R4, Price failed in his bid for an outright win. Meanwhile, in the Dunlop Metro GTi Challenge, Paul Northall was looking desperately for his first victory. Adam Croton, though, wanted to prove he could quick on the run, as he proved to be on the racetrack. A minor error cost him some time, but he continued his relentless pursuit of Northall. This was another two-day event in the Emerald Isle, and Northall was right on the limit from the word go. But the fly in the ointment for both drivers was Don Kettleborough. His car with a broken exhaust manifold sounded as if it was on its last legs, but it didn't seem to slow him anyway. Ralph Peake was also on the pace, but in wet weather on the second day, he went off the track. That left Don Kettleborough in command, with Northall still doing his very best to carry the Midlander. Northall showed just how you should take this corner. Look out for the Irish though, they're guaranteed to be that little bit more flamboyant. Horsepower of a Group A Sierra Cosworth obviously proving a little more difficult to handle than the Metro GTi. So with almost a minute's breathing space at the end, Kettleborough cruised to victory. Northall was second, Croton third. And it was Peake back to the top of the pile when the Metro men made their final journey to Silverstone in October. He was determined to show that his off in Wexford was out of character and that he deserved the championship title. Fifth in practice, fastest in the raceman drove his heart out to win an event-long battle with Adam Croton. Don Kettleborough took the remaining podium spot after starting from pole, which left us with this nail-biting finale for the final round, the Cheviot Stages Rally in the north of England. tarmac road event across the Army Ranges of Northumberland would decide the outcome of the first Dunlop Metro GTi Challenge, and Ralph Peake led Don Kettleborough by the narrowest of margins. Either could take the title, while behind them Paul Northall and Malcolm Oxborough was separated by a single point in their fight for third place in the championship table. In the event, Peake decided to ease off rather than risk retirement, but he nearly backed off too much. Doug Dorr took advantage to win his first event of the year, but in 6th place, the Isle of Man driver Peake was able to clinch the championship and savour the success with a traditional champagne shower.
I'm very pleased to be here at the end of the day with enough points to actually win the challenge. The car's gone very good throughout the year. I'm very pleased to be here and be the winner of the 1991 Dunlop Metro GTi Challenge.
So 28-year-old Manxman Ralph Peake becomes the first ever winner of the Dunlop Metro GTi Challenge, ahead of Don Kettleborough, Malcolm Oxborough and Paul Northall after a superb season's motorsport. Dunlop Metro GTi Challenge and the Dunlop Rover GTi Championship, proving the sporting Rovers offer the best of British one-make motorsport on the racetracks and rally stages of Great Britain.